Hello and welcome to another video. Today we're going to be taking a look at my first Ultra League team for this season of Go Battle League in Dragonite, Tapu Fini and Swampert. The idea behind this team is not to create the most balanced team in the world, but to try and create a team that's going to work very well against the Pokemon that I'm expecting to see a lot. And the number one Pokemon I'm expecting to see a lot is Steelix, because Steelix with this new addition of Breaking Swipe looks absolutely amazing. If you have the Excel candy for it, build it and try it out. It looks really good. I'm also expecting to see a lot of fighting, ground, Tapu Fini, Registeel, those types of Pokemon as a response to the popular Steelix. So I came up with this, and on paper, I think this looks very good. Dragonite picks up a lot of good leads, and Tapu Fini, of course, an absolute wall to Steelix, and also Swampert. Yep, the water types are very good in this meta. I think overall the team performed pretty well, although as I say, it's not the most balanced team. There are a few Corebreaks like Dragonite, Skuntank, Alola Muk. Overall, the team performed pretty well though. Quick disclaimer, I wanted to get a video out as quickly as possible after the league switch, and because the league switch happens at 10 PM my time, the only way I could do that is by recording in the middle of the night. I don't want to wake up my neighbors, so I do have to be a little bit quiet for this video. I hope you understand and appreciate I'm staying up late. Let's take a look at the battles. Going into the first game, we lead into a Tapu Fini. Very good lead for Dragonite, and the Tapu Fini is staying in. Dragonite does pick up a lot of good leads, as I say, but it also core breaks a lot of teams because people just aren't really expecting it because of the nerf it got a couple of seasons ago. So we can't go for the seed bump before they make it to the Moonblast. And then I'm expecting them to be weak to Dragonite in the back as well, because otherwise they wouldn't be staying in with the Tapu Fini. So I'm actually going to preserve my Dragonite and shield up the Moonblast. It always takes 10 or the equivalent of 10 Shadow Claws for the Tapu Fini to get to a Moonblast. This was only 9. So it's not a Moonblast, it's only a Surf. We can no shield it, come out with 100 energy on the Dragonite, save the Dragonite for later, expecting there to be something else weak to Dragonite in the back, save a lot of energy on it as well. So we're bringing the Tapu Fini on the Shadow Gliscor, they're bringing it Registeel, and this is where my Tapu Fini's IVs come into play. Usually, if the Tapu Fini is not like very good, the Registeel can land one Zap Cannon and then lock on down the Tapu Fini before it gets to 3 moves. So it comes out with 100 energy or close to 100 energy, but because I'm running the literal rank 1 Tapu Fini, they have to throw another move, and because I'm over farming, I think my opponent may have lost counts. So they try to lock on down Tapu Fini, but we make it to another Surf, and this will grab a shield from Registeel. We can bring in the Dragonite afterwards to force them into either expending both shields on the Registeel or let 100 energy go. They spend the shield, save all the energy on Registeel, but now we can go for a Shadow Ball into the Gliscor as well. This will do big damage to the Gliscor. A Focus Blast from a Registeel does about 48% to a Swampert, whereas an Earthquake from a Shadow Gliscor does about 62%. So this is the move we want to shield. It is the Earthquake. And then we can go for the Hydro Cannon, but the opponent just concedes the match. So yeah, we win that one. Next game, lead into a Heracross, another very good lead. And then they swap into the Pokemon that we really like to see. It's the Steelix. And now we can bring in the Tapu Fini on the Steelix. And this is such a good matchup for Tapu Fini. As you can see, I'm speeding up this matchup because it's a very long matchup, especially if the Steelix decides to go for some breaking swipes. So we can make it to the Surf. It takes 8 Dragon Tails for the Earthquake, but after 2 breaking swipes, after 1 it's still 8 for the Earthquake, but after 2 breaking swipes it's 7 for the Earthquake. So we can't go up to right before they make it to the Earthquake, go for the first Surf, they shield it up, and then we can go for the second Surf. On the CMP they have to shield up once again. And the real fun thing about this matchup, the Earthquake is not enough, so we can no shield, go 2 shields up, and still keep switch advantage against the Steelix as we farm them all the way down and even come out with some energy. They bring in a Registeel, and we can just bring in a Dragonite because we know that they're core broken by this Dragonite, and the Dragonite should be able to just deal with the rest of this team. I'm not really sure why the opponent is not conceding at this point. There is no way they're getting through a Dragonite with 2 shields as they go for a Zap Cannon. And they do get the attack drop, then bring in the Heracross, and then they go for a move after 6, meaning this can only be a Rock Blast, a non-stab Rock Blast from a Heracross. It's not going to do all that much damage to the Dragonite, so we can't let it go. At this point, I'm just looking for the 2-shield flex, really, hoping that my opponent will realize the game is over sooner rather than later as we go for the Shadow Ball, and then the Heracross actually gets a full farm down, come up with a lot of energy, but we can just bring in the Tapu Fini, go for the Surf, and now we have a Swampert up 2 shields against the Registeel, and you probably already know where this is going. Bring in the Swampert, and my opponent finally realizes that the game is over, and that is a very good game. Next game, lead into a Giratina. Dragonite can make it to 2 Shadow Balls in the 1 shield scenario against a Giratina Orchid, So we can let the first move go. They actually go for the Dragon Claw here, if I remember correctly, because they don't have Shadow Sneak. But even if they land a Shadow Sneak, you should still be able to shield once and then get to 2 Shadow Balls. So we go for the Shadow Ball, they do shield it up. And then I shield up the second one. I know this is only a Dragon Claw, but if I no shield it, we won't be able to make it to the second Shadow Ball. And then I'm going to load up and try to catch the next Dragon Claw on the Tapu Fini. We've Shadow Clawed them into a range where 1 Earthquake from Swampert is enough to take them out. So I feel comfortable swapping out, saving the Trevenant for later in case there's like a Virizion or something in the back that we want to lure out. That this is also a way of playing this team. You can lure out a Cresselia or a Virizion, then take care of it with Trevenant afterwards. As they go for another Ancient Power, I know that the Giratina is very bulky. I know this is resisted, but I really thought this would be enough to take out the Giratina. I don't know my Ultra League matchups well enough, as the Giratina is just way too bulky, and they don't concede. No, they live the serve and get off another Ancient Power, and that turns out to be absolutely huge, because then they can bring in the Tapu Fini, farm me all the way down. I just barely don't make it to the Moonblast. Then we can bring in the Swampert. We do have a move loaded on the Trevenant, but we have a Swampert up against 2 Pokemon and only a Trevenant with 1 move. We need to pull out some magic here. I'm thinking of maybe going for a CMP sack later on as we bring in the Swampert on this Tapu Fini. It takes 2 equivalent of 7 Mudshots for the first serve and then 6.5 for the second 2. So they throw this immediately, if I've counted correctly, so they should be 6.5 Mudshots away from the third serve, so we can overfarm a lot with the Swampert and go for the Hydro Cannon right before they make it to the next one. And if they shield this up, we have another one stored to take them out. Or maybe we can swap into the Trevenant. I think I'm going to go for the Hydro Cannon. No, they just let the Tapu Fini go, then bring in a Galarian Weezing, and this is exactly what we needed to see. I know they're at the Brutal Swing now, so we're trying to go for a CMP sack optimistically, knowing that the Swampert will be able to win CMP in the back, because I wasn't sure a Hydro Cannon plus a Shadow Ball would be enough to take this out. So if I got the CMP sack, I would have been able to overfarm with Swampert potentially and get to the Earthquake, whereas if I don't get, like, yeah. But as it is, we get off the Shadow Ball, and then we can also just get off this Hydro Cannon. Looks like it will be enough, and it is enough to take out the Galarian Weezing. Looked very rough at some points that game, but we do end up winning it next game. Lead into Poliwrath, and they drop into a Shadow Snorlax. The reason why I'm using a regular Swampert over a Shadow Swampert is because it can secure a switch advantage against a double, and Shadow Snorlax, it will be able to beat Shadow Snorlax in the 1s and 2s. Straight Hydro Cannons, so that's what I really like. But what I didn't realize when I was looking at those sims was that that's only if you have default IVs. If you have a very good Swampert, the second Hydro Cannon may not be enough to take out the Snorlax. So I'm looking at this, I know that they're 1 leg away from the next move, and I think I can get them with 1 Mudshot, but they get the new mechanic. The Hydro Cannon was barely not enough, so I had to give up another shield, but that was not my biggest mistake of this match, because a fighter plus Shadow Snorlax plus a Lowland Muk is a quite common team in Ultra League, and I should have probably realized that when I'm looking at it now. It makes sense. If you're seeing a Poliwrath or a Machamp on the lead and they swap into a Shadow Snorlax, you should probably just go for a Seed Bomb and then bring in the Tapu Fini, save the Swampert, because, well, in the back, it's very often in a Lowland Muk. This time it's a Shadow Lowland Muk, but Tapu Fini and Trevenant. Yeah, if you see this on the lead, it's like really bad. But if you see it once the Swampert is gone, it's also really bad. As we go for the Hail Mary Moonblast, I don't know. My opponents have absolutely no reason to let this go. Even if they do, I think they can just counter me down with this Poliwrath. But yeah, I concede the match. That is a good game. Next game, lead into a Shadow Swampert. Very good lead for Trevenant. And then they bring in a Shadow Walrein, which we don't really have a good response to. So they make it to 1 Icicle Spear, and then we can also go for 1 Seed Bomb. But we have done some Shadow Claw damage to this Shadow Walrein, bringing it low enough to where 1 Moonblast should be enough to cause issues for it. So they will be able to outpace 2 an Earthquake. It takes 9 for the first and then 8 for the following ones. So they will get to 1 Earthquake. It won't take out the Tapu Fini. They need to get to another one. I go up to right before they make it to the Icicle Spear. I should have definitely just gone up to right before they made it to the Earthquake to overfarm even more, because 1 Icicle Spear is definitely not enough to take out the Tapu Fini at this point. But they make it to the Icicle Spear because the Moonblast is not quite enough. This is not going to be enough to take out Tapu Fini. I don't want to leave my Tapu Fini with too much health. I want to give this Swampert less farm, but they actually swap out into the Swampert, saving the Shadow Walrein for a potential catch later. So we go for the serve against the Swampert, and they farm us all the way down. Now we can bring in the Trevenant, and the Swampert will make it to the back-to-back Hydro Cannon. And because we've already taken some Powder Snow damage from the Walrein, 2 Hydro Cannons will be enough to take out Trevenant, and we won't be able to make it to Seabomb. If I no-shield this, I'm gonna have to spend a Hydro Cannon taking out the Swampert, and we might lose CMP. We're probably gonna lose CMP in the mirror, which will cause big issues. So shield up the Trevenant, farm up to as they get to the Hydro Cannon, they go for the C-Bomb, also realizing that if I shield it, I go for the C-Bomb over from a lot, and they come out with another move for whatever they have in the back. They bring in a Shadow Charizard or a regular Charizard, go for the Shadow Ball, we grab the shield, and that's absolutely massive. If they had no shielded that, I think we would have just lost the game, but as they shielded, we might have a chance. But when one of these is Shadow, it's a lot better for the Swampert, but if they're both non-Shadow, it comes down to IVs. If the Hydro Cannon is enough, it's not quite enough. Can we much shut it down? We make it to another Hydro Cannon, but they catch it on a Walrein. This might actually be good for us, because now they only have the Charizard left. We still have the Trevenant in the back, so they can take us out with this Blast Burn. But now it's gonna come down to Wing Attack versus Shadow Claw, and it's a simultaneous KO. So next game, lead into a Shadow Dragonite. Bad, very, very bad lead, because of course Shadow Swampert doesn't want to see this. But we can Shadow Claw this down into a range where 1 Hydro Cannon is enough to take it out, which is my strategy, as they go for 1 Dragon Claw, and then we're gonna go for a very risky bait with the C-Bomb, realizing that if I'm staying in with the Trevenant, they're probably realizing that they should chill up their Shadow Dragonite. They can make it to another Dragon Claw before we make it to the Shadow Ball, but by going for the bait, I put myself in a position where I would have been able to get to a Shadow Ball, meaning they're forced to throw a move in order to take me out. So they're going to come out of it with no energy. Whereas if I'd gone for the Shadow Ball, they might have just farmed me all the way down. We bring in the Swampert on this Registeel. They go for a Zap Cannon. They don't get the debuff, luckily, and then we can make it to the Earthquake. We Shadow Clawed the Dragonite into range where 1 Hydro Cannon is enough, but if I come out with not a lot of energy on Swampert, the Dragonite is still going to be able to do too much Dragon Breath damage to me. So instead, I decide to go for an overfarm on the Registeel, farm up to almost 100 energy, shield up the Focus Blast, and then come out with a lot more energy on the Swampert, because now we're going to be able to get to back-to-back Hydro Cannons a lot quicker on the Dragonite as they bring it in. We go up to the back-to-back Hydro Cannon. I don't want to take too much Dragon Breath damage, but I did want to overfarm a little bit, so we go for the Hydro Cannon to take out the Shadow Dragonite. In the back, it's a Virizion, and if there's a Dragonite on the lead and the Virizion in the back, it's just not happening. So yeah, they go for 1 Leaf Blade. We can make it to almost a Moonblast. Maybe we can fool the opponent into thinking we're at the Moonblast as we go for the Surf right before they make it to the next Leaf Blade. Of course, it always takes 3 for the Leaf Blade. They shield it up wisely, because there's no reason for my opponent to not shield up the move. That is the only loose con for them to take a Moonblast. We have energy on Swampert, but it's simply not enough to take out the Virizion, so I just concede the match. Next game, we lead into Regirock. Regirock actually beats Trevenant in all even shield scenarios, which the rock type beats the grass type in all even shield scenarios, even though the C-Bombs are super effective, simply because it outpaces the Stone Edges. It takes the equivalent of 5.5 Shadow Claws for Regirock to get to Stone Edges. So realizing this is not the best matchup in the world, I do go for 1 Seed Bomb, but then we're going to bring in the Tapu Fini. They farm a little bit more. I'm pretty sure they're not at the Zap Cannon at this point. I'm quite sure. So we can no-shield it, it's only a Stone Edge, and then bring in a Toxicroak. We can't go up, it takes 8 for the Toxicroak to get to its Sludge Bomb, so we can go up to the Moonblast and then go for the Surf. Toxicroak is quite frail, so I'm expecting them to shield it, but no, they do let it go, and then they farm up to 1 before they're at the back-to-back Mud Bomb. I'm thinking if it's a Sludge Bomb, they take me out, but then I can farm them down. If it's a Mud Bomb, we might be able to live it and get off another Surf. It is the Mud Bomb, we live it, we get off another Surf. And this will take out the Toxicroak. If they don't shield it, they farm up to the Sludge Bomb. It takes 7 after they've thrown a Mud Bomb, and then they throw immediately. We do get denied, which is a little bit annoying, but it is the Sludge Bomb. I brought the Swampert in thinking that they might throw immediately. Now we can farm them all the way down. We do have to take a Mud Bomb. I maybe could have caught the Mud Bomb on Trevenant, but I'm very frightened of switch locking my Trevenant in case there's like a Pit Shot or a Mandibuzz or something. In the back, it's a Gliscor. They do 2 Shadow Claws as we bring in the Trevenant. I could go for the Seed Bomb before the Regirock gets to a Stone Edge, but if I go for the Seed Bomb, the Gliscor is just going to take me out before I get off too much energy. Instead, I can farm the Regirock all the way down, shield once, and then come out with a lot of energy for the Gliscor. They got in 2 Shadow Claws before, now they got in 1 more. Takes 5 for the Aerial Ace or X-Scissor, so can make it to the second Shadow Ball on the CMP, which Trevenant does win, and this is absolutely massive. It is the CMP tie, so we do force the Gliscor into throwing all of his energy, even though it is undercharging. It's already done. We do have energy on Swampert. I'm pretty sure looking at it afterwards, the most hard-hitting move that Gliscor has on Swampert does about 35%, so I think I would have lifted and still gotten up my move, so it didn't really matter, but yeah, that is a good game. Next game, lead into another Tapu Fini, and they have a Registeel in the back once again. Trevenant does have a good matchup against Registeel, but we do have another good response to the Registeel, so might as well save the Trevenant for the Tapu Fini as we bring in the Swampert and go straight for the Earthquake. In Great League, I do like going for Hydro Cannons in the Swampert versus Registeel matchup, but in Ultra League, yeah, Earthquake is just a safe way to go, really. You do need to land an Earthquake in order to take out this Registeel. Hydro Cannons just don't do as much damage as in Great League, as we can shield up the second move from the Registeel as they shield up our Earthquake, and then we can go for another Earthquake. I think there were 7 lock-ons away from the next move, and I was very afraid of another time of the opponent getting a new mechanic, so I didn't want to risk it, went for the Hydro Cannon, and then we can make it to the Earthquake on the Tapu Fini. I don't want to throw it immediately in case they try to catch, so overfarm by 1, then go for the Earthquake. This will do big damage to the Tapu Fini, but they do get a pretty big farm down. They swapped out immediately with the Tapu Fini against Trevenant, so I'm expecting that they probably have something better against Trevenant in the back. So I do no-shield this Moonblast, even though it does a lot of damage, and then they bring in the Steelix, and this is just amazing. As once again, I do speed up this matchup, go for the Surf, and they shield it up because they want to potentially debuff me before taking it. It doesn't matter. It just does not matter what Steelix does. They go for the Earthquake, it just doesn't do a lot of damage. Then they can make it to a Breaking Swipe, even like the Tapu Fini can almost lift like 2 Earthquakes from this thing, so we can overfarm a lot, then go for another Surf right before they make it to a move, and even though they expended a shield and we didn't, yeah, we just come out with energy, health, all the lot, bring in the Trevenant, they concede the match. Next game, lead into a Gliscor, bad lead, we have 2 better responses in the back. Tapu Fini is generally the safe swap because of this thing. If you get 2 Water Guns advantage, you're going to be able to get to the Moonblast before they get to 2 Leaf Blades. This won't take out the Virizion. The Virizion does win the 0 shield, but if they no-shield the Moonblast, we can shield, and then we can take switch advantage. If they shield it, we can no-shield, and then we can take shield advantage. So Tapu Fini will be able to force an advantage from the Virizion if you use that in the safe swap, and then you can bring back in the Trevenant. They go for move after only 4, meaning this can only be a Leaf Blade, takes 5 for the Stone Edge. So we can take this easily. We can even take another one. My plan is to just overfarm like crazy with the Trevenant and then go for a Shadow Ball at the end. They go for another Leaf Blade. I'm considering whether I want to go for take another one. As they bring in the Gliscor, go for move after only 5. So this can only be an Aerial Ace or a Night Slash. It is the Night Slash, doesn't really do a lot of damage. It takes 8 for the Earthquake after the Night Slash. So we can go for the first Hydro Cannon here. It doesn't take out the Gliscor, but then they should be 3 away from the next one, so we can make it to the Hydro Cannon on the CMP, on the Earthquake. They're either going to have to shield, or this will take out the Gliscor, takes out the Gliscor. They still have that Virizion in the back. I'm expecting them to have another response to Trevenant because they swapped out of the Virizion earlier on. I think they would have just let their Virizion go if they had something else that was weak to Trevenant, and then make sure they got Gliscor onto the Trevenant. So I do shield up the Swampert, expecting them to be good against Trevenant, trying to go for the Earthquake, hoping it would take out the Virizion. It doesn't take it out, so we catch the Leaf Blade on the Trevenant, and then in the back, it's a Gliscor, or a Goliathopod as it is actually called. We can go for the first Seed Bomb, really expecting them to shield, because Shadow Ball is the most hard-hitting move left in the game, and that means we can't get off another Seed Bomb. You do need 100 energy in order to store a Seed Bomb plus a Shadow Ball, so I knew I didn't have it. It takes 5 for them to get to an X-Scissor or an Aerial Ace, so they should be 3 away from the back-to-back here as they go for the first one. I could go for the Hydro Cannon before they made it, but I just think there is no way in hell a Hydro Cannon is enough to take out a Goliathopod from this range. So I go for the CMP, even though I thought I would lose it. We do lose it. An Earthquake wouldn't even have been enough to take them out, so that is another good game. In the final game, lead into Cobalion, I don't even know. They swap into a Shadow Steelix, and I am just in La La Land thinking this is amazing, and then I complete and utterly misplayed by going for this Surf right before they make it to the Earthquake, because the Steelix with the Breaking Swipe debuff does live it, and now they still get off the Earthquake, and we don't get as much farm. If I'd just taken the Earthquake, I could have easily taken the Earthquake and just overfarmed even more, come out with even more energy. This might still look like a very good scenario, but it's just a small little mistake that I could have played it better. So we go for the Moonblast, really not expecting the Cobalion to shield, and then they go up to right before we make it to the next Moonblast before going for a Sacred Sword, meaning they come out with 4 double kicks worth of energy, 1 away from the Stone Edge. So I'm gonna go into the Trevenant through 1 Shadow Claw, swap and catch the move on this Wombat, but it doesn't go through because of some lag. So we still have to take the Stone Edge on the Trevenant, and that turns out to be absolutely crucial because they have a Giratina in the back, and this is really bad for Swampert. We could have really used the health on the Trevenant. Go for 1 Seed Bomb, expecting them to, of course, shield a potential Shadow Ball, and potentially we can make it to another Shadow Ball. Maybe we can farm down the Cobalion later on as we bring in the Swampert. Maybe it was obvious I was going to go for the Earthquake here. I was considering the bait, but they do shield up the Earthquake. The really bad thing about this matchup is you do need to land 2 Earthquakes, so we need to get to 2 more Earthquakes, which is just so much energy as they go for another Dragon Claw. And if I don't shield this up, I think I'm just gonna get farmed down completely. So I do try to shield it up. My switch time is simply not up. We go up to the Earthquake, wait a turn to make sure it's not caught, and then I don't know if I try to catch or if I try to surprise them or something. If I just let them, like, they're gonna outpace to the Dragon Claw, so they could just take up my Swampert and then take out Trevenant afterward. So I think I maybe tried to just surprise them, knowing that the game would have been over unless my opponent made a mistake. But they do make it to the Dragon Claw on Swampert. I'm thinking that Shadow Claws do more damage than double kicks. So if I have any chance of getting to 2 Hydro Cannons, I have to load up on the double kick damage. But the double kicks still do too much damage. And unfortunately, we end up losing that game. That was the last battle for today. And overall, I think that it's a pretty good team. I really like Trevenant at the lead. It picks up a lot of good leads. And also Tapu Fini is really good in the current meta. But of course, it's always going to be a bit difficult if you're not using any Excel Pokemon. I did go positive overall though. If I had all the Excel candy in the world, I would probably try and build a Deoxys double Gliscor team. That looks really good. Or build a team with a Registeel safe swap and then Steelix in the back. Regarding those teams actually, the reason why I was using regular Swampert was because I was expecting quite a lot of ABB teams where they're trying to use either a double or a Snorlax or maybe something like a Registeel to lure out the fighting type, which in my case would be the regular Swampert, where the regular Swampert does significantly better in the 2-shot scenario and can secure switch against double and both the Snorlax variant, so that you can get Tapu Fini onto the Steelix in the back. And I do think the regular Swampert is better than the Shadow Swampert on this team. Other than that, if you liked the video, remember to leave a like, and if you're new here, subscribe to the channel. And of course, a massive thank you to the members of the channel. Your support is very much appreciated. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time.